The Ruckus is bringing the party to the Metro, June 7th and 8th at Adventureland Resort, with Friday headliner Chris Young.
I've got some famous friends.
Saturday headliner Jake Owen.
Yeah, caught up in a southern summer.
Russell Dickerson, Maddie and Tay, Lauren Elena, Brian Kelly, and more. Festival tickets include access to the theme park and water park. Get your tickets at ruckusiowa.com.
Use code word Steve for 25% discount for weekend VIP and weekend general admission tickets.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We, of course, are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. I am your host, Never Wrong Nick Bull. I'd be remiss if I didn't announce and introduce my tag team partner. We are the co-tag champs of the For Frequency's Sake Network. He is the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited. We've got another Black and Brave graduate on our hands tonight. Based mostly in Chicago these days. We are joined by Uncle T, Solomon Tupu. How you doing today, Tupu?
Oh, just another day, man. Oh, what the hell is that?
Whoa, how'd you?
We got balloons here.
We got balloons.
What?
How did you do that?
I don't know.
That was
making
cool.
Magic happen today.
What the?
That was right on cue, too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's the end of the podcast. We'll see you guys later. Here it is.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, right. Now we're doing pretty good. Just got a good little legs workout with my Hatekeeper brother Shane Boucher at the BXB dojo, and then went to Wally World, grabbed some groceries, and like I said earlier, spent money that I don't have. So it's just another day, you know.
Very happy to have
Absolutely it
Solomon
is.
Tupo in the studio here on the Card Subject to Change podcast. So I'm going to start it out with the question I ask all of our guests: what got you hooked on pro wrestling? What was that thing that brought you in, that's kept you around, that makes you a fan, that makes you love it? You're obviously a wrestler, so you have some love for it, but what was that? What got you hooked on pro wrestling?
So it's a funny story that my buddies always bust my balls and rib me for, because they're like they always go like, yeah, you started watching wrestling yesterday or whatever, because I didn't grow up watching wrestling, because
Okay.
I was in a religious household, and my dad, though, he was a big wrestling fan. Like he would watch everything, and my mom hated it. So, due to being in a religious household, I was sheltered as a kid and wasn't allowed to do X, Y, and Z. But I would always kind of peek through the door. I remember watching. It was an Umaga match or whatever, something. I was watching my dad watching old Monday Night Raw back in the day, when I was a little kid. I'm like, oh, I wonder what that is. And then I have a vague memory of some friends of mine in elementary school or whatever it was, where they had an Umaga action figure and a Jeff Hardy action figure, and they're like, "Isn't this cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool." Walked away, no idea what it was. So, but it's the funny part is, come around 2012, I have no knowledge of wrestling or nothing. Which is, I don't know if that's gonna fucking. Oh, sorry, I don't know if that's gonna drop my stock or nothing. But 2012 rolls around, I put on Netflix, and there's a Rock documentary. And at the time, like I said, I don't know anything about wrestling. I'm like, oh, The Rock, that's the actor, the Hollywood guy, yeah. And then my mom, she was like, yeah, this looks cool. Let's play it on Netflix. And it was a documentary about his, not about his movies, or obviously it's about wrestling. And I'm like, oh, The Rock's a wrestler, WWE, WWF, that's cool. That's really cool. So she sheltered me from it. And then ironically, if that's the right word. She is the one that got me into it because she put on that Rock documentary by accident, and that's the same time around where like the WWE Network came back. Because I remember the documentary popping up. I'm like, oh, that whole thing was cool. And then at that same time, The Rock came back, and I'm like, that's Rock on TV. We didn't have like live television or whatever, but we had Hulu, and like Raw and SmackDown would come on the day after it was aired. And at that time, it was like Monday and Tuesday. So Tuesday and Wednesday, I'd watch Raw and SmackDown all the time. I'm like, oh, that's The Rock, and he's back, and he's wrestling the CM Punk guy and John Cena. I know John Cena, everybody does. And then I'm like, oh, the Shield. And then I'm like, oh, Ryback's at the time. Ryback, I was the biggest Ryback fan in the world at the time, dude. Like even to this point, like even though he says some crazy shit nowadays, I still have that nostalgic aspect of Ryback. I'm like, oh, dude, Ryback's the man, yada yada yada. And then Miro is the number one person on my list. He's my all-time favorite. Nobody's better than Miro. But I'm just on a tangent rambling. But yeah, no. So pretty much what got me into wrestling was that Rock documentary, and then ever since then, it was like 2012, 2013. The network's back, and I'm just this encyclopedia, this library of pro wrestling. Like you can just click to any year, any date, and just everywhere. And I literally, I think I started in like 98 pay-per-views, and I just watched every single pay-per-view back to back within like a few months. I'm like, this is awesome. And then few years later, I tried to join the military. Didn't work out. I have poor vision in my left eye. Uncle Sam said no. And I was like, you know what? I want to be a wrestler. That sounds really cool. And I was like, oh man, where should I go? I saw Heath Slater had a school. I saw Rikishi had a school. I had Lex Luger had a school. But I was like, oh, Seth Rollins has a school. Black and Brave with the Shield. That's so cool. So like 2018, I was in my class where I graduated with names such as like Conan Lycan and WWE NXT superstar Nathan Frazier. And just to drop a name, why not? Like
Sure.
we were in the same class, and those are my buddies for life, brothers forever. And ever since 2018, I just been on this ride, man. Just doing the thing as we all are.
So go ahead, Nick.
You mentioned Rusev and Miro, how he's your number one. Talk about what drew you to him and why he's your favorite wrestler. That's interesting. I enjoy his work too, but you never hear people saying that. So I don't
know what it is, but I've always been hooked on Rusev. Like when Rusev was even like that when he was Alexander Rusev in NXT, I was like, this dude's so cool. Like just because like I think it's because like I'm a bigger dude and he's a bigger dude too, but he's obviously more jacked than I am. But like I was just like, yo, he's like strong, fast, athletic, and actually really funny on the microphone. And like I would see interviews with him backstage, like when they would do the up, down, down shows. When there's one episode, I think they were playing Madden, and he was playing Madden with AJ, and then his mannerisms of him like. I think he picked six AJ, and he was like, I'm too fast. I'm too fast. He was just so funny. And then I just got hooked from there. Like his work, I was just the biggest fan of when he had the U.S. title. He was undefeated for like a year. Like he was just like top heel at that time, I think. And with the whole Rusev Day stuff, that's money. I don't know what it was, but I just literally stole half of his movesets, like the wheel kick, the savate kick. I used to do the accolade. Like I just got hooked on Rusev, and then he got released, or he asked for his release. I forgot which one it was, and then he went to AEW with the damn Redeemer, Miro the Redeemer, bro. I was like, oh, this is money, bro.
Sure.
It was just so sick. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. All I know is like at the time and still now, Rusev was like a drug that I couldn't get enough of. I just loved it. Love me Miro. Love me some Miro. Big fan.
We've got our friend and fan of the show, Stryker, here, and he said that Tupo versus Miro, he would love to see that. I think I would too.
I would too.
How would that match go down? You guys are similar builds. How would that go down? That'd be very interesting. Sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up too. I'm down. I'll find out. He's literally like the top of my list. Like that's the number one thing that I want to do in pro wrestling is wrestle Miro. Like at the moment, obviously,
Sure, sure.
things change all the time. But right now, for the past few years, like wrestling Miro is number one.
So I wanna drop another name who's on the independent scene that you have some familiarity with, because I've seen a couple of your matches and they are just absolutely hard hitting. Talk about your matches with Manders, good friend of the show
Oh,
here.
yeah, called Steve. Called Steve Manders, bro. I love wrestling Manders, dude. I've had some of my best matches with him. I've had some of my my worst matches with him. You can if he ever gets on on this podcast or whatever, you can ask him about our first ever street fight where it was a train wreck. But no, I recently we had a match in Chicago style, which I consider my home promotion, and it was a banger. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. Who cares? Everybody knows it. Will Ospreay was in the back. It was super cool. Like he pulled me aside. He was like, "Mike, that was the coolest. I love that style of work. Big men fighting big men. It was great, bro." Blah 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 blah. I'm like, dude, you're Will Ospreay. That's cool. Thanks, bro. But no, I owe a good chunk of my career to Manders because when I first started, I would hop. He would have me in his car, or ask me to hop in the car, and I would hop in the car all the time. And it's just like a lot of where I am is because of him, and I'll never not say that because he's helped me out a lot. So much love to the old cowpoke, old called Steve.
How cool
So
is
I
that
want.
to how
Oh, go
cool is
ahead.
that to
Go
get
ahead.
back from your match with Manders and have probably one of the most popular wrestlers, one of the most over wrestlers right now in the world being like, "Hey, I like what you did." That had to feel pretty cool.
That's a thing, dude. It's pretty cool, man.
So I want to know you. We've talked about you going to Black and Brave, Seth Rollins, Merrick Brave. What was it like going in that first day? That what many have called Hell Day or a lot of day zero. What was your mindset going in there, and then what was your mindset walking out on day zero after the what we've heard the rigorous training they put you through, the rigorous
Man.
tests they put you through?
So what I remember from it, because like I'm getting like Snapchat memories from like 6 years ago today. I was like currently in class, which
Mhm.
is cool because I'm like, wow, 6 years, that sounds like that seems like yesterday. But I remember walking in day one, well, day zero, because the conditioning test is considered day zero. The week after is day one. But like I remember walking in there, and I'm like, at the time it was at the old facility called the Foundation, I think it is, in over in Moline or Rock Island, whatever it was. But it was like this half CrossFit gym, and in the corner was the ring. And at the time, it's when Seth was the cover of, I forgot which 2K video game it was, but they had it was like a graffiti art of like Seth, where it's like burn it down. That's where the burn it down thing came from for the video game cover. And they just had a giant, like, huge display of it. Like the entire wall was like a custom thing for it. And then the ring was right there. And then the coaches were around. Some of the grads at the time were around. And I remember walking up. I'm like, oh my god, this is pretty cool. And I did my research on some of my fellow students, and some of them like Nathan Fraser. I saw he had some prior wrestling experience, and I'm like, oh, dude, this guy's probably really good. And then Conan Lycan, I thought like he's a D1 athlete, and he's just big Jack New Yorker. I'm like, oh, this dude's like, he looks kind of mean. Oh, I don't know about this guy. He looks good too. And then like I just walked in, and then I shook everybody's hands, and we clicked from there. And then we all sat down and we did the intros, yada yada. And I remember because we're just introducing ourselves to everybody, like and the coaches and all that. And Seth was late, but I remember seeing him on the corner of my eye, him walk in, and I'm like, oh my god, that's Seth Rollins. I'm freaking out. And then and then luckily that like I mean, we're all fans, and I consider us all coworkers at this point, but at the time, like the fanboy in me, it was like, okay, I'm here to be a wrestler, so I have to like get rid of that as fast as possible.
Sure.
Which is hard to do it sometimes because I just marked out over Rusev for like 10 minutes. Well, like, but I remember he walked in. I'm like, oh, Seth Rollins is here, and he was like, we're gonna kill you guys tonight. Time to get running. I'm like, oh damn. So they definitely put us through the ringer for that. That conditioning test is no joke. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, like, or the second hardest thing I've ever done. But like, I don't know. It's definitely very difficult. And my mindset was like, oh man, well this sucks, but 3 months of this, and then I'll be able to do my thing. So get through it and just have fun. And luckily we had a good time. It was fun and all that. So it's pretty cool.